schedule. Well, now we're coming to our guest speaker presentation. I'm really excited about this one this morning. Allowed me to reconnect with an old friendship, not old people, just an old friendship. Our guest speaker this morning will be talking about doing business better, setting boundaries, transacting well with others, and being a cheerleader for the community. Our speaker this morning is Mia Voss, brand ambassador, social storyteller, and building inspector. So she does a little bit of everything.
Hi, everybody. All right, so we're going to talk about doing business better. There's never a bad time to talk about that. And hearing all your businesses has been pretty exciting to hear what's going on in Lakewood. I live in Denver, but I love this town. So thank you, Tom and Sarah, for inviting me. And shout out to Marianne, your sister, my BFF of We're Six. I love it. All right, so let me go ahead and go to the next slide. So doing business better, we're going to talk about that today. This is me, as Tom said. Yes, I'm a opinionated lifestyle blogger. I talk about female buying power quite a bit. Speaker, you see me here. I have a couple podcasts that I host too. One of them has a swear word in the name. You'll see that at the end, so wait for that. And I do punch list inspections for buildings, high-end condos, hotels, and things like that. So that's me, and we're going to dive in. All right, so doing business better. The couple things we'll talk about are setting boundaries that you can keep, because yes, you can set boundaries. It's the keeping part that's a little tough, right? At least for me. How to transact well with others, and then the what not to do. I learn really well from mistakes that other people make, so I'm going to throw a little what not to do's in there as well. And then my favorite part, and I can tell you all will love this, is being a cheerleader for the things you love in your community, and I'll give you some good pointers and tips on that. So next one. The first thing that we have to start with is your own personal brand. It doesn't matter what you do, your brand you. And I love this phrase, doing good business is an inside job. So this is where I wanted to ask, and if somebody has some comments too, what everybody does. I want to get some business titles. Can you throw some out? I know there's a mayor back here. What are also some of your other titles?
Communications director.
Gotcha. And who's that for?
Youth Corps.
Awesome. How about you?
Gift shop owner.
I love it. Small business. I love it. How about you?
Same.
So, okay, you guys
We're a
together?
team.
Okay. How about you? What's your title?
I'm a business manager for Kitchen Masters and Restoration Floorworks.
Awesome. How many employees do you have?
Technically 5. We
Awesome.
work with a lot of subcontractors.
Anybody else want to? Nice. Anybody else want to throw it out?
Anything that needs to be done at a coffee shop.
Where you're like me, you wear a lot of hats too. So that's the point of this, though, is that everybody has their personal brand, whether you are working with a company, you're an HR person, that follows you around, and it is definitely an inside job, and it's the foundation of doing good business. So next slide. Yeah, see that little ball. When I was putting this together, the one thing I was mentioning before we started, it's 2 years ago this week that we had the last normal week, right? Pre-pandemic. And thinking about when I was putting this together, this is what I think a lot of us feel like our personal brand looks like, this hot mess, big ball of twine. I love this description for core values that goes with, this is what part of your personal brand. Principles or beliefs that you hold most dear, that are of central importance in your life. When everything around you is changing, when the world is difficult to understand, and when you're riding up and down the emotional roller coaster last 2 years, your core values will always be there for you. And that is part of your personal brand as well. Ready for that? Oh, that's okay. I actually have it here too. I'm not playing around. So I love this phrase that your personal brand is the soul that defines your personal brand. I pulled this up. This gal's name is Anna Lundberg. This is not me, by the way. I just found this yesterday. I thought this was a really interesting little homework piece that we could maybe do. So if you guys are interested in joining me on this, I'll send this to you. Look at this little hierarchy you can set up to figure out what your personal brand is and what you really believe in, and everything emanates from that and how you do business. So I love that she has my purpose, finding and living my own definition of success and helping others do the same. Mine is live large, have fun. Mine's really simple. And when I am in that, I'm in purpose, everything emanates the same thing again, when I'm living large and have fun. But see how she has her core values, which I thought was excellent. And I have a couple really great links that I'll send to you. There's one from this company called lifehack.org that came up with this core values list. And each, they have a list of words in these really great 2 or 3 sentence definitions. And I love that. And it really helped me balance mine out. So I did homework for you all before for myself in putting this together. But my core values are autonomy, balance, curiosity, compassion, and community. And those I really, in reading the definition, that made me feel like I knew what my purpose was. And then look at these little drop downs too, my strengths, my skills. So those are the hard and soft skills of what you do. Credibility, no, that's not me, definitely. And then these tangible brand elements. So I think that would be fun if you really want to start thinking about doing business better, is putting this together. We'll go to the next slide. Told you I had a lot of fun slides. So now we're going to get to the setting boundaries that you can keep. Oof, we're going to dive in. Okay, next slide. So the why, I love this. Boundaries help us, give us the space and the energy we need to show up as our very best. When you look back at what we talked about with core values, that description of how that keeps you grounded when things are going up and down, sideways, pandemic, loss of business, things like that. It's like I said, the energy we need to show up as our best. I mean, but here's what I love. I got this from Forbes. I'm going to read you a couple of things today. But raise your hand if this is something, or say something in the chat too, if this is something that applies to you. People with poor boundaries often feel exhausted, have trouble making decisions, feel guilty and anxious, and are irritable. Ooh, I get that one. It can lead to chaotic teams. This is a really big one. It can lead to chaotic teams and unmanageable work environments. Entrepreneurs are infamous for having poor boundaries because we're always pushing ourselves to the limit, and our work is often mission driven. I know a lot of you can definitely feel that one too. So it's tiring without them. You get the shoulds. Oh, I should have said no. I should have said yes. I should have showed up early. I shouldn't have committed to that. I shouldn't have negotiated that contract. I should have stood up for what I believe in. And again, if you've got those core values really, really ingrained in you, it's much easier so that you're not having these boundary issues. Go to the next one. So the how. I learned this term a couple weeks ago, budgeting your bandwidth. It's so kitschy. I love it. And bandwidth is, my mom's like, what's bandwidth? I'm like, it's like a radio station. Like how far can that go? How far can your energy go? And the bandwidth, it's finding out what that is. Now that's something that I realized with the pandemic. I knew before the pandemic that I was what's called an ambivert. So I'm an outgoing introvert, right? And I really got to know it because I was pretty comfortable with not being around a lot of people. So what I realized with my bandwidth is like things like this. When I get done with this, I'm gonna go home, I'll sit on my couch for a couple of days and really not talk to people too much because I love it. It lights me up, but it takes my energy too. That's my bandwidth. So figuring out, can I go to a bunch of different events? How many people can I connect with? How much can I post on social media? Knowing that is so important. So again, back to those core values, that's when you decide what your boundaries are going to be around. Is it family? I had a gal that I was listening to, she had gotten a chance to talk with this amazing mentor, somebody she was so impressed with. The woman set up the meeting and about half an hour into it, had to cut it short. She said, my family called. It's not an emergency, but I had made the commitment. If this happened, I have to go. Boom, hung up the phone. And for this woman, rather than, she was disappointed, but she saw how that woman held that boundary, right? And said, I have to go. Didn't make a lot of excuses, just said, this is something that's important to me. Health is a huge piece too, setting boundaries around that, keeping your appointments, making your appointments, making sure you're getting enough sleep. That's a tough one. That's a moving target for sure. How you make money. Are you negotiating? Are you saying, this is how much money I'm going to charge? Back to that shoulds piece as well. Like setting that and saying, no, I am worth this much. A lot of people have a hard time with it. I'm going to raise my hand on that one too. Ethical and what you stand for. I mean, are you standing up for Black Lives Matter? Are you talking about ethical pay, equity pay? There's a lot of social justice, inclusivity. Who you're not going to do business with. As a consultant, as somebody who's an entrepreneur, that's a tough one too. And saying, I don't want to make money that way. That's a boundary. That's a huge thing that people don't always have in place. Spiritual is a good one too. Like having those spiritual boundaries. Am I meditating? Am I connecting? that also helps you keep those core values if you're really, really grounded. I get a little woo in my talks sometimes too, but I think it's important. But again, having these boundaries, that takes the confusion out of your decision-making, absolutely. Next slide, I had a lot to say on that one. All right, so here's what it looks like. I have some good examples. The hard stop no, if any of you have seen me talk in the past, this is a huge piece in my talks. The hard stop no, meaning you're gonna say it and you're gonna mean it. And again, if you're super grounded, you're able to say no to things. And just, I have some examples. I love these. I'm so honored. I'll have to pass. Period. Right? There's like, it's so uncomfortable sometimes, right? You feel like you have to explain. And honestly, y'all, 9 times out of 10, people really don't care. You're just feeling uncomfortable about saying no. And here's the other one. Next time, or this, I'll have to pass, and I'll have to pass this time, or invite me next time. Make sure that you actually mean that, because that's that boundary. If you are saying no and you don't feel uncomfortable saying the full no, and you say next time, somebody's going to keep asking you. So having that in place, and again, you may not have to say why you're comfortable with it, but, or I'll get back to you. That's a good one too. I don't answer the phone a lot of times. I want to hear what somebody says in a voicemail or a message before I can decide how I want to answer that as well. Again, self-care, setting priorities, fueling yourself, huge. I'm doing this thing called 12 months and 12 weeks. It's busy. And that's made me have to set these boundaries in the morning, except for this morning, to say I'm not going to get on my social media. I'm going to make sure that I'm meditating, that I'm working out. And that's a boundary that I've had to set for myself and keep for myself, because I will find so much stuff to do instead of that, right? I can get on my phone, social media, cruising around. Changing your mind is a huge one. That kind of goes in with the hard stop no. So a lot of times we'll say we committed to something, back on that should, okay, I should go, I committed to it. But what if the parameters change? What if you're not feeling comfortable about the people that are showing up? What if the time doesn't work? It's okay to change your mind. Now, if you said, I'm going to pick up my kids and my friends' kids and take them to dinner, no, these are commitments that you need to keep. But I really want to encourage you to say, I can change my mind about something and be okay with that. That's not going to work for me now. I love this phrase too, back on the more the hard stop no. I can understand where you're coming from, but I'm not comfortable. Now, saying that, and that can mean, again, if you're thinking that somebody's not aligned with how you do business, I know these are, it can seem like tough sentences as well. Here's a great way to really be a good person in community, being aware of other people's boundaries. If I know that Tom cannot make it at a certain time and it's that time every week, I'm not going to ask him every time and make him keep those boundaries and feel badly about it, right? That is a great way to do business and let people know that you care, that you're listening, paying attention, and then helping other people set and keep boundaries. Those are accountability partners. You said you're going to do a certain thing. So, gently reminding it. And again, making it easy for people to keep boundaries. You can tell they may not want to do something or it's not going to work for them. Stop asking over and over again. Okay, next one. All right, here we go. Yeah, boundaries, set the standard, and that shows people how to work and interact with you. And I think normalizing it too is a really great thing. Letting people know it's okay that you need to take time off with your employees to take care of their kids. Normalizing that. And again, with that brand you, that personal you, especially as employees, we're in this great resignation time period. We heard this before. We're some people with the updates of how it's hard to keep people. Normalizing that, letting people know as a company. I mean, that's, for me, that makes me want to shout you out too. So that's it on boundaries. Here we go. How to transact well with others. I changed the title. My previous title in other talks was How to Not Transact Like an Asshat. That's one of my favorite. I cleaned it up a little bit for you. And then the what not to do. So it's hard to see on this, but this is called the Dunbar's number. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. It's a theory. These are big words. Get ready for it. Suggested cognitive limit to the number of people with whom one can maintain stable social relationships. A relationship in which an individual knows who each person is and how each person relates to every person. Think about that personal, how much energy, how much bandwidth you have to maintain these relationships, right? It definitely, and even in a networking sense. So, think about that. Think about what your number is. For mine, my number went down dramatically with COVID. I really realized there's some things that I have to let go, some people I have to let go gently, sometimes with a hard stop, no, period, right? And that's really helped me a lot to figure out how many people I can really genuinely interact with, pay attention to, and be a good steward to that relationship. I love that phrase. So here's some things that you can do. You want to figure out with whom you wanted to work with and collaborate with. Again, when you've got those core values, it's really easy to see. You don't have to get mad. See, and things, that's the great thing too. Save some energy. You're not being mad all the time of why am I doing this? You've got it nailed down to the people you want to work with. Some connections, some suggestions, following thought leaders and connecting with like-minded people. I don't know in the community how much people are online, but that is something that I love to do. Twitter is great for that. You can get on Twitter, you can follow people, you can see what they post, you can share it out. You don't have to say a word, right? Don't get freaked out. Twitter can actually be a safe place. LinkedIn is great, honestly, for this purpose of this meeting and for networking. LinkedIn is the only place where I send an invite to people. I don't friend people on Facebook. I don't go through people's friends list and friend them. I always add a personal message. So I have my information at the end if you guys want to connect with me and everybody online too. Just send me a message with it. Hey, I saw you at Alameda Connects. And people love that as well. But a couple other things, don't set up auto responses in LinkedIn so that as soon as somebody connects with you, it pops back. They know what they do, what you do. They saw it. That sits in like another list of emails I need to look at. So I'm not a big fan of that. And I'm not a big fan of the instant DM. Hi, you just connected with me. Here's what I do. Don't get to second base. Everybody calm down. Just let people get to know you. And then with backup on this, following people, and I have it on the next slide too, and getting and connecting and interacting with people, that's how people get to know you, not with this direct message. So it's been a message I've been pushing for a long time. Don't go in too fast. Joining groups is great as well too. So next slide. So this says networking events and conferences. I was a little specific on this too, because we are talking about, this event and that everybody's starting to get out into the world and attend things. So I'm a big fan of meetups, Facebook and LinkedIn groups online. So choosing wisely to go to the events right now. Again, with that bandwidth, how many things can you go to? Are you spread too thin? Are you going to events where it's the same people over and over again? So really choose wisely. Time is money, so be careful with that. I love for online events, so let's say conferences. There's one that I love that's in, I just forgot it, Collision Conference. It's in Toronto, so it's a tech and more of a lifestyle conference. They have this whole website page set up that you can go and see who's attending. Sometimes they have the information. They have boards that you can go in and comment on. And that's a super fun way to get to know people before you actually show up there. I call that the rose petals and trumpets effect. So that you come in and people know who you are because they've seen you. Oh, that's Mia. She's been resharing my stuff. She's been retweeting. She's been commenting and bumping up. When you do that, you're bumping up people's visibility as well. That's such a fun way to do and not be too aggressive, but just say, I'm interested. I like what you're doing. Connecting before the event as well. So on LinkedIn, hey, I saw that you're going to attend this. I'd love to meet up with you and have a chat. So that's always a great way to do that. And then be ready to explain that brand you. I had it on the other slide, but the UBP is your unique brilliance proposition. They have a lot of acronyms for that, but that's your personal brand, your you. So next slide. And then the follow-up. This is a really great piece too that we lose a lot. So let's say we all meet today or you're meeting some new people. That follow-up and engage on social platforms. Again, you may not have been able to talk to that person, but you're going in and checking out their social, their LinkedIn profile, and again, engaging with them, or even their Facebook page. I go to your coffee shop page on Facebook and say, I'm going to stop in and see you. That's always really fun. So if you're going to set up a meeting, here we go. There's some what to do's and what not to do's here. If you're going to set up a meeting, you want to meet with me, make sure you've got your intentions and your goals clear. A lot of people, this, I'm not busting on it, but there's a lot of MLMs and a lot of, what I'm talking about, where people want to, and there's a great way to make money, but please let people know what your intention is. I want you to spend $500 to sign up for this package that's going to change your life. No, I already know somebody that's in that business. So if you're setting that intention and goal beforehand, you're going to have a lot less irritated people. I think it's just something we really need to do a lot more often. And if someone is asking to meet with you, ask that qualifying question. What are you interested in? What can we talk about? Again, time is money. And if we're really intentional about that, you're doing good business. And then if you set the meeting, set the time length, the expectation, the boundaries, what you're going to talk about, how long you're going to be on that meeting for. I also think that at this point, we still can just have a phone call or a Zoom meeting. For me, honestly, unless you're handing me one of those big, like Westing or what is that, clearinghouse checks, right? Or a gift or something, I may not need to meet with you. I can get on a Zoom call. And that's safe. That's good for the environment. You're not driving around. I don't have to do this. This takes a while to put together to go to a meeting. Okay, if I just get on the Zoom and I just have to go from here up, I'm good to go, or turn my camera off. Please send a calendar request when you're meeting with people. We are so busy. I know that seems like such a simple thing, but that way I'm not digging through my emails. When did I say I'd meet with them? And follow-up email, that fortune in the follow-up is so good. Great to talk with you, especially when I'm meeting with people. I get so excited. I think about a link I want to send them or a book we talked about or an article. Send that follow-up email. Keeps them in your mindset. Excellent. This goes in every slide. Can I pick your brain? That's the worst thing ever. It's asking, and it can be asking for free time or expertise or services. We've all done it, no shame in it, but we need to stop doing it. And that's boundaries right there. People have spent a lot of time coming up with that. Yes, there's stuff that people know that you could Google, but they have spent the time, they've spent the energy, the education to get to know that, to get that expertise or those services. And another thing too, is sometimes people will offer that as well. Help them keep that boundary. When somebody will say, let me spend some time with you, I'm going to help you with it. I will offer to pay a consulting fee. Or even say, hey, how about I donate to what's one of your favorite charities? Just keep that in mind, these transactional mindsets. Absolutely. But that's one of my favorites that I always put in every slide. And then the next one, also one of my favorites, value your time and your expertise and others' time and expertise. Death by coffee or wine. We call it when you're out there meeting, like, hey, let me pick your brain. I'm going to take you to coffee, and there's no intention to it. Don't be that person, or even Zoom. So again, value your time. This literally goes in every presentation I do, because they're like, oh, I'm overdone with it. Next slide. Build your own boards. This is one of my favorite things, my little secret weapons that I started doing a couple of years ago. So you can all have your own little boards. You can have your board of advisors, your board of experts. I have a board of influencers. They have a much bigger audience than I do. If I have somebody that I want to promote, I'll say, hey, can you go retweet that for me? Could you share this out for me? Because they trust me. They know that I'm not going to ask them to endorse something that they wouldn't like. But you can get these little boards, business peers, experts, influencers for support, expertise. They're trusted. You can get feedback. I call it professional vulnerability. It's great to have somebody you can call and say, I think I may not have handled that right. Can I talk to you about that? I may not have negotiated this contract correctly. I don't think I'm charging enough, and having that trusted someone that you can be professionally vulnerable with. And then I love, and also people that give you energy. And then I love having the personal list too. And then you have your favorite plumber, your nail person, your lash person. You've got all these people that you want to recommend because you know they do business, and they also know that you're going to send them good business. That's somebody that's going to drain their energy too. See how there's that little swirl with it. Okay, next slide. This is a different one. Not a lot of people do this, but it's one of my pro tips. It's asking for permission for introductions. Again, back to my board of advisors, people know if I'm going to introduce them to somebody, it's somebody who's really means it, and they value their time. So what I do is, like, let's say somebody wants, so I'm going to use Tom, an example. Hey, I see that you know Tom from Alameda Connects. Could you introduce me to them? And what I will say is, why don't you send me an email that says, hey, Mia, we talked and I'd like to meet Tom. This is my intention. And then I'm going to check in with Tom and say, is this a valuable introduction for you? And I call that my handle. It's a handle that I can hand you off with. And so I'm not putting together this email and trying to remember what you do and that whole thing. Just say, hey, Mia, this is what I do. Could you introduce me to Tom? And that keeps that boundary for people too, to say, no, I've met 15 people that sell that product, but thank you for that introduction. Does that make sense? I love the asking for permission for introductions. It's been one of the best ways that I feel because, even answering an email, saying no, thank you, that takes time too, and it starts to add up. All right, next one. Here's my favorite part. You're gonna love this. Say being a cheerleader for the things you love in your community. I have a lot of fun photos in here too. So go ahead, next one. So I use the term influencer really carefully because you've seen stories. There's just been people that the Kardashian effect and all that of like these influencers. Micro influencer, we all can be one. Katie, you'll love this one. It's all about supporting business. So talk about the businesses that you love to everyone. That is so fun to do. That can be in conversation, that can be in social media posts, in recommendations. It's so easy to do. And we need it now more than ever. We're all starting to come out. Everybody's really starting to feel like we're getting into a more busy time. So it helps small businesses get discovered, which is huge for all of us. Of just me, like even shouting out the OsteoStrong, that's where I go to every week. And then I love Zavia Med Spa. Here's a great way to do this. Writing Google reviews. You can set up using your you set up a Google profile. You can go into Google Maps. If you're searching around, you see Google Maps, you see there's photos, reviews. I read those a lot. That's how I'd find out, is this restaurant even open? Can I go to this place? You can do reviews on Facebook, Yelp, TripAdvisor if you're traveling a lot. I'm a Google local guide. So I've been doing this for about 6 or 7 years, but you can become one of those as well. As a business, you need to make sure you're watching that. Go in and check, Google yourself, go in and check Google Maps or your Google My Business and make sure that you're responding to reviews and comments. I pay attention to that. If something's sitting there from 2 years ago and it was a stellar comment and it hasn't been responded to, it doesn't look great. And also gives you a chance if somebody's like, this was terrible, 1 star, you can go back. That now that's an instant way to find out what you look like to the public. I do give businesses a chance to fix things. I'll let you know. For a long time, I was doing reviews and only writing good reviews. And I'm like, that's not authentic. I need to say what the actual experience is. But I will also let them know. And hopefully they'll fix that as well. Twitter is great for that, by the way. Twitter is brutal sometimes, though. If you've seen brands that mess up, it's usually on Twitter where they have just not, you're like, oh, you need a handler. You stop what you're doing. So Twitter, although, is a great way to get a brand's attention, a big brand's attention as well. If you're flying and you're stuck somewhere, a lot of times you can just tweet to them. I've had Amex tweet me and their private messages as well. I do every time I fly on Frontier. Yeah, Frontier has a little animal. I always make sure I have my phone out, take a little picture. You're flying with Winnie the Goose or whatever. And I tweet that to Frontier. Usually add TSA in there and say, get me there safely. And they always respond every time. That's just a goofy little fun thing that's part of my brand of shouting out the businesses that I work with or that I use. And you can't see this in here, but Instagram stories, Facebook stories, Reels, tagging locations, TikTok. I am way too old for TikTok. So that's not going to be me, but there's a lot of people that use TikTok Reels and tell a story. It's great for small businesses. It's great if you have a forward-facing product. Instagram is great for that. Anything shiny and pretty, super fun. Food, wine, we love that. The wine store you all mentioned earlier, the Boulevard Wine, I'm going there. That little tasting there. And then do Instagram stories and tag them so people know that they can go. Next one. So here, hopefully that's not a shocker picture for you, but this is what I do. So last year, my friend has a Airbnb in Crestone. Now I work with car companies and they give me cars to test drive. So like I have my Kia Sorento, I did a post, just said, I'm going to Crestone, here's the Airbnb. Now I wish I hadn't because everybody's going there now. It's just lovely. And look, I didn't write a whole story. I didn't write a huge post. I just said, I'm going here, it's fun. And I put the link and then you see comments. People are like, oh, I want to go there. See how that's that just really easy, organic way to share out what I love. I went to a llama farm this weekend. Bell Ranch pack llamas. They're up at Evergreen. So fun. I just did a quick live stream. See, I didn't write a huge story or anything, but while I was there, I just had fun with the pack llamas. And my favorite little acupuncture place. I did a post. I'm really into wellness and hormonal health, especially with female buying power. So I did a little post again. I didn't write a huge story. I just did my little thing, I tag them, and you can see in the comments, hey, where was this? See how easy that was? That's all it takes. I don't need to have 80,000 people like it and no action, right? You don't have to worry about metrics. It just takes one person to say, I like this business. Here's the next one. So this is I just hit my level 9. It took me a while, but these are all the reviews that I do. And then you can see, these are how many photos I posted. And this is how many views it's gotten. 76 million, my 8,000 photos, just because I just put them up on Google Maps. So I went to the Dushanbe Tea House. Have you ever been there in Boulder? Please go, it's amazing. And this was 2 weeks ago, and the one photo already has 33,000 views. Now, that doesn't necessarily do anything for me. It's not something where I'm getting any kind of kickback or clicks or anything, but it makes me happy knowing that as people are going and searching for it, they're seeing my photos, not the photos of the business, but my actual experience photos are showing up. And then here's just a goofy little thing. This is my most viewed picture. Peter's Chinese on 12. Look, it's a random, there's no food. It's just a random picture of their restaurant. And I don't know why this gets viewed a lot. And then one from Southlands too. But that just to show you what it looks like when you're, you may not, I don't think you can actually see like my numbers, but I can see it when I sign in and go, I'm helping out this business. All right, next one. Volunteer, I'm almost done. Volunteer, this is what's important to you in your personal life can be directly correlated to how you do business. This is Colorado Pet Pantry. I don't know if you all have heard of them. You have? I love them. So they help get donated pet food. And it's like a pet food bank, right? So this was us helping after the Marshall fire. And then this is an example. Look at this. Our team distributed 2,375 pounds of dog food and 600 pounds of cat food. That's my heart song. Like when I get the cars, a lot of times I happen to have a truck the weekend of the fire. So all I did was drive back and forth. Like, and that's just part of my personal brand. So I think volunteering is just such a huge way. And then posting about it too. And it's not, don't worry I know it can feel weird to be like, oh, I'm, really putting myself out there, but people know about Colorado Pet Pantry. So it's a great way to do it. And next slide. Look at this. You know what it says? Get political. Can you believe I'm saying that? Yes. This is the time right now. What's important to you? Who are you paying attention to? Who's on your school board? Who are your judges? Judges are a huge piece. If you pay any attention to what's going on in the world, a lot of this stems from what judges have said. So midterms is a great time to get in tune with who's voting for what they stand for. So that can be such a huge part of your brand. And I know it feels counterintuitive. They say not talk about that, but that's what you stand for. And then this one I love too, when it comes back up, you're finding out the background and the businesses of the local candidates. What did they do before they went into office? It's always an interesting way to support them as well and then see what they did. So one more slide and then I think she was taking pictures. Yay, thank you. I know everybody's like, get political. I'm like, yes, 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 you can. So this is my one little parting gift I'll leave with you. Intuition and information. Intuition and information is intuition. And that's allowing your intuition and your rational brain to complement each other. I really feel like intuition has been socially conditioned out of us. It's all action and go, go, go. But if you're using your intuition, again, those core values are going to keep you really grounded. And then you add in information, like the people on your boards, the ones that you trust that have great information, you're going to do better business. So, and that's it. I think I have one more. I might have one more slide with my information. And that's it. So if anybody has any questions, and look what I did. I don't have cards anymore. There's one more slide. You can scan that. Let me know if it works. That's my brand. That's my punch business. That's my podcast. I actually have a couple podcasts, but that's my other one. So I think if you scan that, you'll be able to get in touch with me and connect with me. I would love that. Yes.
You certainly can. It works just fine.
Yay!
Yeah.
Woohoo!
I'd like to know if anybody in this room does what you do. I don't see where you get the time for all that.
Very small increments.
Say it again.
Very small increments. I
Like,
showed you like a big increment, like me, like I know that I am going to, I know it's overwhelming. Like when I went to go get the acupuncture, I just took a couple photos again. Notice how I said, don't write a bunch of things. It's your daily life. What are you doing? Are you going to the grocery store? Are you going to that vet? You going to that dentist? When you think about it, get home, you're not going to the dentist that often. Just write a review for them. It's just kind of a take what you need and take what you can use amount of information. What do
So
you
how
think
about-
would be-
How about if I called you and said, hey, I just went to King Supers, can you handle this? No, okay.
No, but that's a good question though. There's social, but you know what? Call me, we'll have a chat. I can tell you who could handle it.
Understood. Thank you.
And you're welcome. But you know what? If you call me and you have, I will talk you through one experience. That would be really fun because I can tell you've asked a lot of questions in the community, right? You have things you want to say. You ask questions about the windows, you ask about businesses. You're a huge advocate for people. You're already a micro influencer just by doing what you do. You don't necessarily have to do that online. That sound good? Thank you for asking.
Certainly, thank you.
Yes.
Is Colorado Pet Pantry a division of community ministry?
I don't think so. They're just their own 501c3. Yeah. And they've been around, and that's the other point I was gonna make, and then I'll let you guys go. They've been around for about 6 years. Why I like them is how they run their business. They're very efficient. They're very good to their volunteers. They're very good with their time. Did anybody have any questions?